Good afternoon, sports fans. 4 o'clock on the East Coast, 1 o'clock on the West Coast. Welcome to another edition of And That's the Game. The breaking news story of the day comes out of Milwaukee. The Milwaukee Bucks and NBA All-Star and MVP Giannis Antetokounmpo have agreed finally a $228 million Supermax extension. That puts Giannis in Milwaukee for 5 years more. He was expected to either sign a deal with the Bucks and or become a free agent. And if he were to become a free agent, he would be one of the most coveted free agents in the NBA. And this would be a situation that would have every single team scrambling, especially being days before preseason for some teams who already started preseason in the past couple of days. But for the Boston Celtics, they will start preseason tonight. They take on the Philadelphia 76ers in Philadelphia without Gordon Hayward, who was traded during the offseason in that $30 million sign and trade deal that has given the Celtics a trade exemption that allows them the ability to exceed the salary cap, which they had already spent by the $30 million signed in that contract. Still a lot of questions surrounding what does Brad Stevens have, and will he be able to replicate the regular season success that the Celtics had before the shutdown occurred in mid-March. They seem to come back out of it, not exactly the way they went into it. And there were issues abound in the NBA bubble that saw the Celtics out earlier than many people expected them to in the Eastern Conference playoffs. COVID-19 continues to be a problem for college football. Michigan has again canceled a game, this time completing the season for them. The third straight game canceled for the Michigan Wolverines after 50 scholarship players tested positive for COVID-19, therefore deeming the Michigan Wolverines unable to field a competitive team. There are requirements that any NCAA football team must field at least 53 scholarship players in a game. Michigan had 50 of its scholarship players ineligible for the game due to testing positive on COVID-19. That ends Michigan and the Big Ten season. There is a slate of games in college basketball tonight, none that are featuring a ranked battle, but there are some ones that feature ranked teams, including number 24 Clemson against Virginia Tech, number 10 Tennessee taking on Appalachian State, 13th ranked Illinois has a matchup against Minnesota, and 12th ranked Wisconsin also in a battle against Loyola Chicago. 15th ranked Florida State in a battle against Georgia Tech. There are 2 games that have been declared postponed. Number 2 Baylor will not play their game against Texas. I'm not even sure who they're playing against, actually. One of the small Texas schools. And Houston, number 6th ranked Houston, will not play against Central Florida. Few games in Europe in the soccer community, or football as it's referred to in every other country in the world except for the United States. Man City and West Brom tied 1-1 at the half. Hertha and Mainz in the German Bundesliga tied 0 in the 71st. Union Berlin has gone up 1-0 over Stuttgart in the 76th. Bremen and Dortmund are tied 1-1 in the 76th. In Italy, Lazio and Benevento tied 1-1 in the 58th. Vanderbilt has canceled their game against Georgia. This was an attempted reschedule. And after last weekend's game against Tennessee and this weekend's game being canceled, that means that Sarah Fuller's football career is complete. Fuller became the first woman to play in a Power 5 conference game when she appeared in the second half of the game against Missouri, where she kicked a 35-yard designed squib kick play to the sideline, which the Vanderbilt coaching staff said was executed perfectly. She then appeared during the game against Tennessee last week, in which she kicked 2 point after attempts, making her the first female to ever score in a Power 5 football game. Fuller will now return to the Vanderbilt women's soccer team, who does have their spring season, including the NCAA championship tournament, which was shifted from the fall to the spring due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Vanderbilt, who won the SEC championship during the fall season, will be a top-seeded team, as not a number one, but a high-seeded team, as they are a conference champion. The Vanderbilt team will release their schedule within the coming weeks for how their spring season will be played and how the NCAA tournament will come into play from this. Fuller is a senior at Vanderbilt. She does graduate in the spring. However, she has 2 years of eligibility left for soccer due to injuries. She is expected to transfer to North Texas, where she will play out her final 2 years as part of the North Texas Mean Green women's soccer team. When asked about whether or not she would play football, she said, "Not my intention, but if North Texas asks me to step in a pinch, I would certainly do so." Sarah Fuller has certainly brought all of us in the sports industry a story this year, and we wish her all the best of luck as she continues on her progressions through the women's soccer season for Vanderbilt, continuing to complete her classes and all of her success going forward in North Texas. The auto racing season is complete as Formula One wrapped up the season at Yas Marina in Abu Dhabi. It was a very interesting race as Max Verstappen of Red Bull Racing Honda got P1 in qualifying and then proceeded to somehow be able to hold off both Lewis Hamilton and Valtteri Bottas, who finished second and third, respectively, where they started. Hamilton, of course, was returning to the course after missing the previous race due to a positive COVID-19 test. Hamilton said he had a few minor symptoms, but nothing too serious. Hamilton completed the season, having already clinched an FIA F1 World Championship. It will be now off to the off season. We are expected to see a whole lot of testing before the 24 race season starts again in in March of 2021. In January of 2021, we will finally get a chance to see the NASCAR next generation cars. These cars were expected to come out this year. NASCAR, with all the pandemic and everything, delayed those until 2021. We expect to see in winter testing the next generation car for NASCAR in advance of February Speed Weeks in Daytona and the Daytona 500. It is a quite bizarre thing to think about the fact that we are sitting here in December talking about the end of auto racing season, and yet in a couple of weeks from now, we'll be talking about the beginning of the 2021 season. It is going to be a very quick turnaround, and that's been the game for most of professional sports, and that's the game for this December 15th, 2020. Thank you so much for tuning in during these trying times. We wish you all safety, health, and happiness. Enjoy the holiday season as well. We still have a few more episodes of And That's the Game coming up this week and next week before the holiday break. And of course, as always, on Saturdays, you can catch me on hosting Sports World Weekly Saturdays, 10 a.m. right here, sfbnri.com/sportsworldweekly. You can also see us at Twitch TV/sportsworldweekly. I'm Matt Jolis. Thank you so much. Good night.